Hello everybody, this is Reading with Blade here, and we're going to be reading a fanfiction, but it's most likely from Blue Exorcist, but it's a Myman one-shot story. The author's link to her story will be in the description down below. Her story is called My Wife. I hope you guys one-shot story. Please hit that like, comment, and subscribe to this channel if you guys want more fanfictions out there. Hisoka was overwhelmed with excitement, even though the Okuma sensei insisted that this was a 3-day training camp for herself. Rin and couldn't see past the protected camp and practice. They happily changed for dragging poor Shammy behind them, though they were sure she was excited as they were. After swift marking upside the head from Keiji Sensei, Hisoka managed to calm herself down, and the 3 young students managed to finish camp. The protector circle, by the time the boys had finished, they were setting up tents, and when the sun had to set, their training has to begin. Akuma Sensei made it clear that there were only 3 participants informed of the latent or training, whatever. They would have to light and bring back available to the students to decide to go alone. Hisoka bounced excitedly on her toes, bouncing between Rin on her left and Shammy on her right. They grinned at each other and waited for the signal. Bang! The hope of students took off, speeding into the dark forest. It didn't take long before Hisoka was surrounded by small demons that looked like moths. Biting her touch, she quickly pulled on her black leather gloves and began throwing punches, but no matter how many she took off, they kept coming. Damn bugs! She tiredly to growl through her touch. Bugs. Hisoka's eyes snapped open in realization. Bugs. Especially moths. They were attracted to light. Quickly she sped out and grabbed it and flicked it off. The bugs instantly calmed, signaling that she still had to fight her way out of the swarm. Smashing through branches, Hisoka tired to outrunning the last annoying creatures. Grinning, she looked over her shoulder. Hisoka had never noticed that the figure running out her until it was too late. She was hit to the ground with a loud thunk. Groaning, she rolled back to her feet, searching for what had hit her. Chami-chan? She began, but didn't have time to question. The blonde had a huge swarm of demons surrounding her. The 2 girls quickly overthrown by the swarm of numbers of creatures, but not before Shammy realized that blood was curdling scream. Hisoka did her best to wrap herself around the small girl to protect her. She winced as she felt every exposed piece of her skin being bitten and scratched. Damn it, get away from us, she growled, clawing her arms to try to defend from the other moths. Shammy, Hisoka, Rin's voice broke through the bugs buzzing. Rin, help us, Hisoka yelled, separating as the moths tried to claw into her mouth. Thoughtfully, the thickness of the bug, Hisoka peeked and saw blue light. Suddenly, the small creature clinged like it was an illusion. The bugs were burning into ashes. Rin ran towards the girls. the blue flames flying over his body. Hisoka held Shami tight, but once she saw Rin consumed by concerned face, she relaxed a bit. She wasn't quite sure what she had just witnessed, but right now she needed to make sure Shami was safe. When this is all over, you got a lot of explaining to do, Rin, she grumbled as she laid Shami down to check over her. Rin chuckled nervously as he kneeled beside them. Soon enough, Shogun and Sing had turned up, being attracted by Shami's scream, as was Kanura. Contacted them to stay. He had found one of the lanterns. They waited briefly for Shami to wake up, and then decided to work together. As soon as they found Kamara and the lantern, which has turned out to be a very stone lantern, which was completed by a wooden cart. While returning the lantern until they came across a rickety wooden bridge that spun across a windless river of large bugs. But after using Hisoka and Shami as bait, we were successfully to return to camp. Hisoka tried discreet to search back of her neck. Maybe she was having a reaction to the moth bites. She rolled her shoulders intently and trying to stop the itching. Great. One night, and I already got issues. Shrinking down, she sat down by the campfire. Staring at the fire, she started to feel tired. She decided it must have been from all the excitement, camping, bugs, being chased by a giant stone lantern, all the fun stuff. Hisoka started to become memorized by the flame. The noise of her friends faded until she heard the fire crackling. During the days that Hisoka realized that she had stood up, but she didn't want to stand up. She wanted to stay by the nice warm fire. Wait a minute, where am I? Hisoka finds herself walking towards the edge of the camp. She tried to stop, but her legs wouldn't listen. She tried to scream, but her mouth wouldn't open. She panicked, but her own body remained calm and walking. She stepped across the barrier. She finally stopped, but not in her own will. Someone had stopped her. Not only that she had turned around and wrapped an arm underneath or around her shoulders, and she was now stroking her head. If it wasn't for the fact that her body wasn't cooperating, she had been lashed out and making a break for the barrier, but she couldn't even look up to see who had her. She merely got unintentional glance of the long black fingernails. Blurred murmurs was all Hisoka heard before she was suddenly lifted and her capture flew away from the camp. The world turning to swirls of colors as they jumped through the trees, zipping, zagging, flipping. Her capture came to a halt on a tree branch, and she found herself sitting on his arms, with her arms around his neck. From where she could see Ren, he looked angry and appeared to be yelling, but she couldn't focus on his words. Let's see. She could hear the unfamiliar voice clearly. Yeah, I'll make her my wife. Panic set as she finally came face to face with a strange green-haired demon. She tried to move away from him, but paralyzed by what he had said. Surely he was joking, but he started renouncing a form of wedding vows. Her inside froze. No way. What is this guy trying to pull? Desperate from all her struggle, Hisoka felt herself nodding, and the demon brought her his face closer to hers. The seal of this commitment with a kiss. He opened his mouth widely, exposing his tongue. Hisoka tried to pull away with all her might, but she couldn't move. His tongue brushed lightly against her lips, suddenly before he could pull away to block an attack from Rin. Hisoka mentally thanked him. She was definitely going to hug him to death if they ever survive. But the demon sent Rin flying, and the world returned to a blur as the demon being chased by driving Rin to the ground. The demon was less than impressive when Rin didn't give him and turned his attention back to Hisoka. Then I don't need her anymore, he hummed. I could take one of her eyes as a souvenir. No. Whatever, Cousins has a hobby of collecting human eyeballs, he asked me, bringing him some. His long black nail got dangerously close to her eye before he lowered them instantly to run them softly through her cheek. Or maybe I can keep her for myself, he muttered, licking his lips. She did taste awfully sweet. A firework shot past him, cutting him off. Kimaru, Shiro, and Shami had tried to hold their ground, but the demon avoided them. Kamaru and Soma were quick locking away, but before the demon could take out Shiro, Rin engulfed him in blue flames. Whoa, the demon face lit up with excitement, dropping Shiro and jumped into the air as he threw Hisoka aside. She was sure she would fall to her death, and she landed in a plush chair. "Nee, brother, look after this for me," he yelled before jumping into the battle. A voice sighed. If Hisoka didn't know better, she thought it would be Mephisto's calming, cheerful voice. "Now, let's get this thing out of your neck, and you can enjoy a cup of tea with me as we watch the show." There was a sharp pain in her neck as she tried to pull away. Her body did the part that just did that. It pulled away from the excruciating pain. Grabbing the arms of the chair, Hisoka spun to face who was indeed Mephisto. He sat back on his own chair, who has some sort of worm between his fingers. "Mephisto," Hisoka gasped confusedly. "How nice of you to join me, Hisoka. Care for a cup of tea?" Mephisto grinned as he handed her a cup and some sugar. Hisoka's hands were still tightly gripping on the chair as she was trying to understand what happened or what was going on. She didn't reply. Mephisto dropped into the pudding as he sighed, as he flickered his fork around on his wrist. Hisoka found herself sitting upright, accepting the drink. Much better, he clapped. "Now let the show begin." Mephisto waved his arms excitedly. Hisoka's gaze dropped to the cup of tea. What's going on? Why isn't Mephisto helping his students? And did the demon Amaiman really call him brother? Hisoka's gaze drew forward as Mephisto summoned a giant clock that appeared to eat Amaiman, only to be drowned into a piece a second later as Rin once again consuming in blue flames. Finished the green hair demon off. After everything moved fast, that Hisoka didn't compare that what just happened, until she was resting back in her dorm, studying, stern and tired. She tired her to push her worries away, and especially that she had able to find sleep. A few mornings later, Hisoka finds herself in Mephisto's office. Once again, she finds herself to stare of shock and confusion. What had started off as an interrogation, but she received of the night that she hadn't told anyone but about Rin's demon state. he asked her a favor. As rambunctious Rin had a cause and created extra work for the crazy hat-wearing man, he needed someone to take care of his hamster. Why did he have a hamster in the first place? But nevertheless, Hisoka agreed to take care of the strange green little pet, although she did find it a bit weird that he had named the hamster after his late brother, even though they were both green. Hisoka made her way back to the dorm, the hamster on her shoulder and a bag of sweets in her hand. She found it odd how tame the hamster was. He was awfully friendly as well. She took that as it was a good thing, though it would make her job easier. Hisoka quite enjoyed having a Maiman hamster with her. It turns out he was a great company. He followed her around like a lost puppy and played around her on the table as she tried to study and snuggled into her neck at night. Hisoka had become quite attached to the little fur ball and eventually affectionately showed him kisses, hugs, and very light hugs in the hope that she didn't smush him. But one night Hisoka woke up with a start. She quickly checked the sound of the bowl. A Maiman? And she realized that he was gone. A Maiman, she whispered, trying to rub her eyes. Suddenly cursing as she jumped up, suddenly to get out of bed and headed to her kitchen sink. Until a Maiman, she crawled louder as she entered the kitchen. She tiredly gazed around for the missing hamster. A Maiman, do we have to play this time of hour? She yawned. Want to go back to sleep. Let's go to bed. This is ridiculous. Where has the hamster gone? She knew she could just go back to sleep, but she wouldn't sleep until she knew he was safe and not stuck or injured somewhere. Closing her eyes, she turned to leave the kitchen, only to walk into a wall that appeared to have grew arms and stopped her from falling back. Hisoka pushed back lightly to find herself staring at a striped button brown shirt. She slowly looked up to see a bored face of a Maiman, but not as in her hamster, as a Maiman that Rin had killed. Keyword killed. Hisoka squeezed her eyes shut. She must have been really tired or something, or she had eaten something really weird. Stepping back away from the demon in front of her, she took a breath and opened her eyes. Was he? Nope. Still there. Frowning and reaching up to touch his cheek, causing him to lean in her palm. Suddenly, Hisoka was awake. She jumped back, retreating her hand in light speed, and began to panic. What are you doing here? She stuttered, looking around for a possible exit. Maiman had still tired as he watched her closely. Slowly he reached his hand to touch her, but Hisoka took another step back. Humans can be confusing, he muttered. What? A Maiman didn't want to try and confuse the girl, as she backed herself right into the wall. You were the one who was calling me to come back to bed, and now it appears that you don't want me near you. He leant down so his face was like a mere inch from hers. Hisoka's breath hinged as he spoke. You're mistaken. She blurted. I would never ask you to come back to bed with me, let alone want you near me. She tried to sound brave, but the stuttering currently gave that away. But you were so affectionate to me. He started standing up straight and watching her closely. You were always kissing and hugging me, just like a good wife should. Why would that changed now that I have my true form back. Amaimon seemed repelled and tried the idea of her suddenly changing her feeling towards him. Hisoka struggled to process the new information in her hamster. In fact, Amaimon is not just a pet that Mephisto was trying to use as a replacement, but was shocked to her the most that the fact that he called her his wife. Wife? I'm not your wife, she yelled. Or yelped. Amaimon tipped his chin as he thought out loud for himself. But I said my vows, and you agreed. Suddenly he snapped his fingers and grinned. That's right, we never got to seal our commitment. Amaimon seemed pleased with himself remembering such detail. Hisoka, on the other hand, was horrified. Last time he tried to seal the commitment, he was going to eat her face. So naturally, Amaimon tried to hold her face still with both hands as she struggled. This just seemed confused to him and stopped advancing when he was nose to nose with her. Why are you struggling? You did agree to this, he spoke quietly. Hisoka tried to report, but the second she opened her mouth, she saw him grin and swooped in to complete their vows. Hisoka instantly froze. She couldn't believe that he just did that. Amaimon, on the other hand, pulled away, looking very pleased with himself. Then Hisoka made no movements. He interrupted that, accepted and gathered her into a tight hug. My wife, he purred into her hair. Well guys, that's the end of this chapter. There's only 2 because of the extra bonus chapter that the author left. So please check out her quoted account so you guys to read the story. And I apologize due to my stuttering in the recording. I had to do this quite quickly and in my room as soon as I can due to the fact my brother is constantly playing the Xbox. If you guys can barely hear it in the background, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, thanks for watching my Amaimon love story or one shot. Until then, later.